Welcome to the Eye Opener. I'm your host, Michael Lewis. In yesterday's video, we told you about Chief Justice John Roberts of the U.S. Supreme Court, who was exposed by attorney Lin Wood on December 17th. Roberts allegedly said in a phone call on August 19th that he would make sure President Trump would not be reelected. And he discussed with left-wing Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer on how they could get President Trump voted out. Attorney Lin Wood said he believes his claims are truthful and that the evidence has been placed in the hands of several third parties. This is a very serious allegation. At 10 p.m. on December 17th, President Trump tweeted, "I am very disappointed in the United States Supreme Court, and so is our great country." Attorney Lin Wood then replied to the statement the next morning saying, "Yes, we are, Mr. President. Yes, we are." This matter involves two justices, where one of them is the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The Chief Justice usually convenes the conferences and has no special power, but he can influence the selection of cases, preside over debates, and leads the justices' case discussions. These actions, to an extent, will still influence the Supreme Court's decisions. On Monday, December 14th, Matt Patrick, the Republican Executive Committee representative for the Texas Electoral College, exposed in a Texas state legislature public hearing the internal situation in the Supreme Court when it dismissed the Texas versus four-state case. Patrick said he saw a report written by a current Supreme Justice staffer. In the report, the staffer said, "The justices, as they always do, went into a closed room to discuss cases they are taking or to debate. There's no phones, no computers, no nothing. No one else is in the room except for the 9 justices. It's typically very civil. They usually don't hear any sound. They just debate what they're doing." But when the Texas case was brought up, he said he heard screaming through the walls as Justice Roberts and the other liberal justices were insisting that this case not be taken up. And the reason, the words that were heard through the wall when Justice Thomas and Justice Alito were citing Bush versus Gore in Florida of 2000 from John Roberts were, "I don't give a beep about the case. I don't want to hear about it. At that time, we didn't have riots." This was news shared by Texas Republican Matt Patrick, and if true, it proves that Chief Justice John Roberts, in an internal discussion, puts pressure on several other conservative justices to influence the Supreme Court's attitude towards Texas versus four-state case. Then in the evening of December 17th, President Trump tweeted that he was very disappointed with the Supreme Court. This statement is not as simple as it seems. It sends at least 2 messages. Number 1, will President Trump still rely on the Supreme Court to handle election disputes? If he opts not to use the Supreme Court, then what is his plan? Second, the Supreme Court justices, especially John Roberts and Stephen Breyer, whose scandals were exposed, will they face impeachment in the future? Will President Trump endorse the impeachment action? I don't know if John Roberts sided with the conservatives on a key case on December 18th because the scandal was exposed, but nevertheless, this was a ruling in favor of the Republicans and President Trump. In July this year, the Trump administration issued a presidential memo to exclude undocumented immigrants in the 2020 U.S. Census. The census is conducted every 10 years, and it is very important as it directly impacts the delineation of congressional districts. As a result, about 22 states opposed this decision and sued his administration. On Friday, December 18th, the Supreme Court dismissed the case in a 6-3 decision. All 6 conservative justices on the Supreme Court, including Roberts, voted in favor and deemed it as premature for a resolution. In other words, if the Supreme Court does not take further action, then President Trump's administration's decision can be implemented without interference. The implementation will take effect when the census report is submitted to Congress in January next year. In Democratic states like California, which harbor large numbers of illegal immigrants, the illegal immigrant population would have to be cut out from the total population count. Corresponding Democratic congressional districts are likely to decrease and federal funding for them will be reduced. But leftist lawyers have also warned that if President Trump's administration does implement the policy, then new lawsuits will be filed again. But no matter how John Roberts behaves now, the scandal about him have jeopardized his and the Supreme Court's credibility. As more people start to question the system, President Trump really needs to seriously consider other options beyond the Supreme Court. On December 18, 3:30 p.m., President Trump and Acting Defense Secretary Christopher Miller had a meeting at the White House between just the two of them. Prior to the meeting, U.S. media outlet Axios issued a report which stated that the Acting Defense Secretary, Miller, ordered the suspension of all ongoing transition meetings in the Pentagon with so-called President-elect Joe Biden on the evening of December 17th. The report further stated that this suspension shocked all Defense Department officials. According to a senior Defense Department official, the reason for the suspension was due to the arrival of the Christmas and New Year's holidays, which were in nearly 2 weeks. They said the meeting would resume after the holidays. It sounds like a simple rational reason, but why was the suspension suddenly ordered at night, with more than 20 so-called handover meetings at the Defense Department taking place from Friday, December 18th to the next Monday, December 21st? Another point is that Miller also issued a statement after the order, saying that this decision was pre-discussed with the Biden team and agreed upon by both sides. That is, starting from the 18th, they will have to reschedule all meetings during the holiday period and continue after the holidays. However, the Biden team followed up with a statement stating nobody agreed to it and that nobody was taking a holiday break. They expressed that these meetings are very important. There is no time to wait, especially with Trump administration delaying the start of their transition. But as we finish programming the show today, there's still no further statement on what the DoD's decision will be. The Biden team handover activities of the DoD department, which is very crucial to the transition process, was suspended on December 18th on Miller's order. Also, earlier this week, the DoD's internal classified network was closed for a few hours during the day, ostensibly for maintenance. However, maintenance is usually done at night or on the weekends when people are not at work. Some analysts say this was likely done because the DoD's internal actions, which have not been announced to the public. Soon after, on the evening of the 17th, Miller ordered to call off the handover with Biden's transition team. All of this is not as simple as it seems on the surface. On December 17th, General Flynn, who was pardoned by President Trump, had an interview with Newsmax. We will start with a brief explanation of the importance of General Flynn's remarks. He's not just a poor guy who was pardoned by President Trump after a few lawsuits. He is the former Director of Defense Intelligence and the first National Security Advisor of the Trump administration. He was framed by the leftist collusion and had to leave the White House. The opponents always attack what seems to be the most immediate threat, which shows that General Flynn is feared by the leftists. There are a lot of rumors that Trump will pardon this person or that person, and recently some media reported he was going to pardon the founder of WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, but these pardons have not yet happened. President Trump pardoned General Flynn during the most crucial period of the election, displaying his trust to General Flynn. After General Flynn was pardoned, President Trump retweeted a documentary about a lion who saved another lion from being besieged by a group of African hyenas. Therefore, another reason why President Trump pardoned General Flynn is because he can be an assistance to President Trump during this crucial time. General Flynn's interview in his advice to President Trump, both from a trusted partner and President Trump's first national security advisor, which carries a lot of weight. So while we do not have to pay attention to other people's words, General Flynn's words deserve our attention. In the interview on the evening of the 17th, General Flynn mentioned at least 6 important points regarding what he would like President Trump to do. First, he said he was worried about the U.S. Supreme Court. He even felt that even now, the Supreme Court had not even bothered to look at the evidence of the election controversies. Second, if the election controversy is not resolved, it is impossible for the United States to move forward. Third, voting machines and other equipment in key states suspected of election disputes must be seized. Fourth, President Trump can mobilize military forces to take over the swing states of the election if he wants to. He can also move the military to those swing states and conduct a re-election in those states. Fifth, General Flynn said that there have been 64 cases where martial laws are used in the history of the United States, implying that invoking another one is not an exception. Sixth, foreign forces did indeed interfere with the U.S. election, including the CCP, Russia, Iran, and Venezuela. Yesterday, December 18th, was the submission deadline for the U.S. Director of National Intelligence Report on foreign interference in the election, although on the 16th, the Office of the Director of Intelligence announced that the report would be postponed as agencies have not finished coordinating on the product. Some analysts have suggested that the Director of Intelligence may have reported the results of the investigation to the President himself on the 16th or even earlier. The progress made in the last 2 days really does not rule out this scenario. So what's next? The Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security are going to make recommendations to the President on what actions to take to address these issues. The new acting Attorney General and acting Deputy Secretary will officially take office on December 23rd. At the same time, the January 6th deadline for the congressional certification of the election results is getting closer and closer, while General Flynn and others are encouraging President Trump to use his presidential powers to set things right. Some in the Republican Party also hope to make a difference in the congressional certification. Republican U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville of Alabama, newly elected in November, suggests he will back efforts of challenging the January 6th Electoral College vote. In addition, he's willing to take action by cooperating with Mo Brooks in the House. In a tweet on the evening of the 17th, Trump said, "That's because he's a great champion and a man of courage. More Republican senators should follow his lead." Trump also tweeted on the morning of the 18th to continue encouraging Republicans, saying the Republican senators have to get tougher or they won't have a Republican Party anymore. Vice President Pence, who will preside over the joint congressional confirmation meeting on January 6th, has already stated on the 17th that he will fight along President Trump until every illegal vote is thrown out. The issue of foreign interference is one of the main concerns in the election controversy. After this year's election, a massive hacking of various U.S. government agencies by foreign hackers has surfaced, and new information suggests that the nature of the hack is more serious than we thought. This week, the U.S. intelligence community announced multiple cases of foreign hacking. The hackers have been operating since at least March of this year, gaining access through the SolarWinds Orion platform, which is widely used by the U.S. government. The scope of the impact is so large, as all the networks connected to the system have all been affected, including the Pentagon, the Department of Homeland Security, the National Institute of Health, the Treasury Department, the Department of Commerce, and major corporations. On December 17th, the U.S. Department of Energy also confirmed that their preliminary investigations found that hacking activity was detected at two Federal Energy Regulatory Commission national laboratories in New Mexico and Washington, as well as the Department of Energy field offices.